Stand by. Okay. We're ready.
Good morning. I would like to call this January 18th meeting of the Planning and Advisory Commission to order. If you will please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would like to remind those in the audience and those watching on television that this is the first reading of any rezoning request brought before us today. We will hear a reading of the staff report and ask the applicant to provide a brief overview of the request, and we will then give the opportunity for anyone in the audience to speak for or against that request. The commissioners will have any needed discussion and render a decision, and then that decision will be sent to City Council, who will hear the request 2 more times before rendering a final decision. We do have minutes that have been given to us this morning, commissioners. I'm hoping you've had an opportunity to look through those. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes that need to be made at this time?
So moved as stated.
Okay. So all those in favor, raise your right hand for approval of the minutes. All right, we will submit those as approved. Then we will this brings us to our first case. Under the old business tab on the agenda, there is a case REZN-12-16-2478, and we are actually going to continue to table that as Mr. Harrod was not able to get the information needed to pass on to us, so we're going to continue to table that particular piece of old business, and hopefully we'll be able to get to that at our next meeting. So that does bring us to REZN-12-16-2594, and this is a request to amend the zoning atlas of the Columbus Consolidated Government. George W. Mize Jr. Has submitted an application for 6002 Veterans Parkway. The current zoning is NC, which is neighborhood commercial, and the proposed zoning is GC, general commercial. And this property is located in Council District 2, Davis. Mr. Harrod, if you will please read the staff report for us.
Thank you. Applicant is George W. Myers Jr. Owner is Judy L. Wilkinson. Location is 6002 Veterans Parkway. Acreage is 0.42 acres. Current zoning is neighborhood commercial. Proposed zoning is general commercial. Current use of property is retail and personal services. Proposed use is auto truck repair minor. Land use is inconsistent with the general plan. It is in planning area A. Current land use designation is neighborhood commercial. Future land use designation is single family residential. It is compatible with existing land uses. There are no environmental impacts. Anything they need to do with soil erosion and sedimentation control will be handled within the site development permitting process. City services are provided. Traffic impact. Veterans Parkway has an AADT of 27,900. Projected ADDT for this site is 106 trips. Level of service expected to stay at LOS of D. Traffic engineering, the site shall meet the codes and regulations of the Columbus Consolidated Government for commercial usage. School impact is non-applicable. Buffer requirements is a category C for the SFR3 zoning district. That is adjacent to the property. 33 people were notified of the rezoning through mails. We received one call. That was a neighbor It is a similar type of use, and they just had questions and wanted to attend the meeting. Do note that this is on Veterans Parkway. Over the last 5 years, even though on the comprehensive plan, a lot of that area calls for either single-family residential or neighborhood commercial. However, due to growth patterns in that area over the last 5 years, it has not been consistently keeping with the general plan. So a lot of that area has turned to general commercial as a general commercial corridor.
Thank you for that information. Commissioners, are there any questions regarding the staff report for Mr. Harrod? Okay. So the applicant has come forward. If you'll just state your name and address and give us...
Good morning. My name is George Mize. I'm with the law firm of Page Cranham. I'm here representing your applicant, Iron Point Development. Iron Point is out of New Orleans, Louisiana. They're a preferred developer for Take 5 oil change. They're concentrated in the southeast, and they've currently gotten at least 5 Take 5 stores in development right now. The principals of Iron Point certainly have many years of experience in development, ranging from 12 to 30 years, and they've had numerous developments of Walgreens, Chipotle's, Starbucks, similar type developments. And here with me today on behalf of Iron Point is Richard Weber. Also here with me today is Mark LaCroix of LaCroix Engineering. He is our engineer. I'll direct your attention to the site plan tab on the little booklet I handed out just to give you an idea of what we're proposing. But we're seeking to rezone approximately 0.42 acres of land located at the northeast intersection or northeast corner of the intersection of Ogletree Street and Veterans Parkway from NC to GC for the purpose of operating an auto, oil, and fluid change business. And the proposed development and use is certainly consistent and compatible with the uses up and down Veterans Parkway. And as Kevin alluded to, it's consistent really with the planning department's desire and plan that this segment of Veterans Parkway become GC. Just from a historical perspective, and this is stuff you guys already know, but prior to the adoption of the UDO, these subject properties were all zoned C2, which by name was residential commercial or neighborhood commercial, but which by general use and actual application was a general commercial classification. But when the UDO was adopted in 2005, there was a blanket or a general conversion of these old C2 properties to NC. And when that was done, unfortunately, the conversion rendered many of these C2 properties non-conforming, or it set up restrictions or placed restrictions on use of the properties that really weren't intended. The proposed development and use would have certainly been allowed under the old C2, but an auto, oil, and fluid change business is not a permitted use under NC under the current UDO. And what my client proposes to do, and I'll direct your attention to the current conditions tab, but what they propose to do is to come in and take out that old building and put in a brand new 1,700 square foot Take 5 oil change building. And if you look under the elevations and interior tab, you'll get an idea of what the elevations will look like. In fact, I'm told this is a site-specific elevation, as well as what the interior of the business will look like. They'll also put in totally new or totally refurbished common areas such as parking lots, landscaping, internally directed lighting, etc. They plan to obviously comply with the buffering requirements under the UDO. And we hope this will include a 10-foot landscape buffer along the east line between the property and the residential neighbors, a 10-foot landscape buffer with an 8-foot opaque fence that's going to be equally attractive on both sides. And the developer, there are a few trees along that eastern line, and to the extent we possibly can, the developer plans to leave those existing trees. In addition, they'll be removing a 2-story structure and replacing it with a 1-story structure, which will provide additional buffering to your neighbors because now you've eliminated the ability to see over or look over the buffer. This is not a heavily conditioned case. In fact, if you look under the tab conditions, we've really only got one condition that we're proposing, and it really relates to our garage or our bay doors. Given the fact that the property is located on a corner lot, we cannot comply with the bay and the garage door orientation requirements of section 4.2.5 of the UDO. And I'm going to be throwing a lot of numbers at you, so forgive me for that. But generally what that section says is that bay or garage doors cannot be oriented toward, or they can't open toward a public right-of-way or toward a residential zoning district. However, that statute goes on to say that they can be oriented toward a public right-of-way or toward a residential zoning district if it's properly screened in accordance with the terms of that ordinance. As it relates to the screening between the development and the right-of-way, that's no problem. We're going to put in what's called a 5-foot landscape hedge between all along the right-of-way, as you can see on the site plan. What we're requesting is a condition to allow us, as it relates to the east line of the line between the subject property and the residential properties, that we be allowed to put in the standard buffering requirements under section 4.5.7 of the UDO, which are the buffering requirements that Kevin referred to as a type C buffer, rather than the buffering requirements or the screening requirements under 4.2.5. Now, in other words, what we're asking to be done is that we be allowed to put in a 10-foot landscape buffer with an 8-foot opaque fence versus the screening requirements under 4.2.5 of a 5-foot hedge or a 5-foot masonry wall. You know, from our perspective, and I think you'll agree, an 8-foot wall with a 10-foot landscape buffer provides an awful lot more screening and a lot better buffering for the residents than a 5-foot wall or a 5-foot landscape hedge. The property is serviced by all necessary public facilities and infrastructure. There'll be no additional investment required on the city's part, and as Kevin indicated, there'll be no negative impact to those facilities or infrastructure, nor to the traffic. The rezoning will have a positive economic impact to the city and its citizens, including creation of construction jobs during the 4-month construction phase, together with a substantial increase in business and for those businesses that support the construction industry, you know, suppliers, subcontractors, electricians, plumbers, et cetera. And then we anticipate creating between 7 and 10 permanent jobs once the Take 5 is up and running. Development is also going to provide a substantial increase in the ad valorem tax base for ad valorem tax purposes, thus providing a substantial economic return to the city, again, without negatively affecting any existing facilities or infrastructure, without requiring any additional investment on the city's part. And in this particular case, we anticipate nearly doubling the ad valorem tax receipts. Also, there'll be a substantial increase in sales tax receipts, both in connection with the purchase of hundreds of thousands of dollars of construction materials, but also permanently once the Take 5 is up and running. In fact, we anticipate generating about $100,000 a year in sales tax receipts. This is a true win-win situation. We're able to go in, take out an old, very unattractive building, which is in substantial need of maintenance and repair, and put in a brand new, very attractive new development. And in return, my client gets an excellent location with very good exposure to Veterans Parkway. We've had, fortunately, no negative comments from any neighbors. And in summary, we believe that our rezoning request and application meet all the requirements for rezoning. The GC classification is certainly consistent and compatible with surrounding uses. We believe that all the public services and facilities and infrastructure are in place to service the development. There'll be no negative impact to those facilities or infrastructure. The proposed condition is appropriate, and we ask that we, along that east line only, we be allowed to substitute the standard buffering for the screening requirements under section 4.2.5. And if you guys are so disposed to do so, under the conditions tab, I've kind of written out the condition if that's something that you would be willing to use. Therefore, we respectfully request that you approve our rezoning application as conditioned, and you recommend approval to council, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Commissioners, are there questions? Mr. Greenblatt?
Yes, Mr. Mize, you stated in here the east property line. Is that to also include the northeast property line that then connects back to Veterans Parkway?
No, that property line is between two commercial properties, and there won't be any buffering requirements there.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Thank you.
Do I have any other? Mr. Bollinger?
What's the operating hours of this business?
Operating hours.
Not sure.
Typically.
Typically, I think 10 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Is that 7 days a week? Or?
It's 7 days a week, but they haven't set that yet for this market.
Okay. And the only other question, the inward lighting, is that going to be maintained at 100% 24 hours a day, or will that be dimmed after hours?
That we did that around.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Kinner?
Yeah, there's logically two entrances to the property, okay? But the one entrance is down on Ogletree Street.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
There are two entrances of necessity, entrances and exits to the property, okay? The one of them is on Ogletree Street.
Correct.
Okay, then that extends down, a fair distance from the corner, and people are passing to get into that that particular egress point, people are passing these residential houses on the other side of the street, or at least one or two of them in there. So it just concerns me a little bit that this is beginning to put a little stress on this neighborhood street that, comes into Veterans Parkway. Would you comment, please?
Well, I'd be glad to comment. I use that street all the time. It's one of my cut-throughs. I don't go down to the next one. There's very little traffic, if any, on that street to begin with. Plus, as Kevin indicated, you're talking about 106 trips a day. Probably most of that traffic's going to come in a northerly direction on Veterans, turn right on Ogletree and turn left before it even passes a residential house. But you do make a good point. Right now, currently, as I recall, the entranceway on Ogletree is a non-conforming, massive sort of driveway, like the old days, where you can pull in from any direction. We're going to have to put it in with a conforming driveway. And on the Veterans Parkway side, that driveway will have to conform to GDOT standards, and we've already gotten preliminary approval from GDOT. But I don't think that it's really going to affect the traffic flow on those residential houses.
I have a question. Isn't there already a oil change facility?
There's a grease monkey 2 doors down.
That's what I thought, 2 doors down.
And we can get into the reasons why I think it doesn't matter, but yes, there's a grease monkey just 2 doors down. So from a use standpoint, it's, perfect for that. It's certainly consistent anyway.
I really would like to hear your reasons why
Okay,
it doesn't
well,
matter,
number
because
one-
one of the things you said was it wouldn't have any adverse effect upon existing businesses, and to me, that's an adverse effect of an existing business.
Well, number one, I think competition's good. To keep prices down low. Number two, we offer a totally different service than Grease Monkey does, and I'll explain to you the best I can. The Take 5 construction manager, who's on the way, is not here yet, but I do know a little bit about it. The Take 5 business model varies greatly from the Grease Monkey business model. You pull into a Take 5 store, you never get out of your car, you tell them what you want, they do it, and you're out in 5 minutes. That's the whole point. You don't walk into the reception room, you don't sit down and read a magazine, they come in and then the tech tells you what your car needs. I don't know about you guys, but I can't stand to sit down and all of a sudden the tech comes in and says, oh, your air filter's dirty, you need a new air filter for $35, whatever it has to be. I told my wife about this rezoning. She says, I want to be the first customer in line because I can't stand to be upsold. And that's the main difference between these two, plus the fact that all your oils and fluids are contained in containers above ground, and there's no below ground containers. We really limit our service to fluid changes, wiper blade changes, things like that, whereas Grease Monkey, I've actually got a website screenshot. I've actually got a screenshot from the Grease Monkey website. They've got air conditioning services, they've got battery service, they've got tire services, they got serpentine belt replacement.
You can put it on the overhead.
There are a number of services that they provide that we don't provide. I mean, our service is a quick get in, get out, get what you want, not be upsold type business. You don't even get out of your car. But the bottom basic line is I think competition is good to keep the prices low.
Okay.
And I don't, Kathleen, I don't remember saying I wasn't going to have any impact on businesses.
It did. You did.
So. I did?
Yeah. You said it wouldn't have any adverse effect on existing businesses, and that's why it stuck out to me. I thought, well, 2 doors down, you've got technically a competitor.
Well, it may increase their business when they pull in to Take 5. We said we don't offer that, but Grease Monkey does.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions, commissioners? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion amongst the commissioners? Do I hear a motion? You're right. Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak against this? Seeing no one come forward, is there anyone who would like to speak for it? All right. Thank you for correcting me.
I just want to make sure we don't leave something out.
No, I appreciate that. Do I hear a motion? Mr. Brown.
In the case of REZN-12-16-2594, location 6002 Veterans Parkway, current classification neighborhood commercial, requested classification general commercial. I move that we adopt the change with the conditions suggested by the applicant, because it is compatible with existing land uses.
Okay. Mr. Greenblatt seconds it. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in favor, all of those opposed, and 1 opposed. So we will send this forward to City Council with a recommendation to approve 6, 4, 1, and 1 against. Thank you. That is the only case that we have today. As far as our next meeting goes, Commissioners, on your agenda, I just want to give you a corrected date. It says February the 3rd, but actually, we're February the 1st. So please make sure you've got that in your calendar as February 1st. Don't come on Friday. Anything else, Mr. Harrod, that we need to bring forward?
I now have everybody's email address, so I'll be handing that over to Shane, and he'll be sending out an email to you for the SharePoint.
I saw that.
We'll have 2 meetings that we'll be trying this out at. If this doesn't work, okay, if you guys can't get the information, if we start getting in trouble, please let me know early. So that way I can make sure I'm getting you the information, or we can come back and figure out a different way to get you that information. But I've been trying this out for the past week, uploading documents to it, making sure that whenever I upload a document, it's bouncing an email back to somebody else, so it's immediate notification that that document has been uploaded. They've been able to get onto that site, the recorded minutes, the videotape recorded minutes, so that you guys can go back and look at it. If you had a question, all of that stuff will stay on there, so that if you in the past had been asked a question of a case 6 months prior and you couldn't remember what it was that you had said or why you had said it the way you did, you can now give a resident the
You just have a better review.
right. You
Yeah.
can tell them that you can go back and review it and have a more informed answer to the question of why you made that decision when you get back in touch with them. All the documents will stay up there, so all the agenda information will be there. So if you need to go back and say, I remember seeing something that came to us 3 months ago, you can go back to that agenda, you can pull it down. All the staff agendas, all the staff comments will be there, so you can go back and look at those anytime you want. It'll basically be now a catalog of everything that we're creating for you guys to have there. So it'll be at your fingertips. And last I heard from our IT department, our website is just about there to be updated. It's a little cleaner, a little easier to move around. It's not everything we all wanted, but it's better than what it was. So that should help out. And I think the mapping, online mapping that we have is a little easier to get to on the homepage. There is actually a way that I'll try to do a session where I'll come in here and show you guys how to do that. You can now upload the imagery to that, and then you can turn on all the future, the current land use. You could turn on any TADs that you need to look at, enterprise zone, anything that we have out there that we have the authority to put out there, we can do. And when you click on the parcel, another pop-up window will come up, and that'll tell you if we've done a special use exception on it. If it has an ordinance for it and has conditions, it'll give you that, where you can go into the clerk of council's website and look that up. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
Lots of change. That's all positive. Thank you for that.
When will we have this for available?
The SharePoint, I'll be making it available to you today. I'll be emailing your emails to Shane, and he'll be sending you out an email for you to go ahead and set that up. And then you can contact me if you have any problems with it, and I'll make sure Shane gets in touch with you and that you're walked through it, and that you're able to get onto the site, logged in with your login information, and that you're accessible to all that stuff. The map is currently up now.
So it'll be, I guess we will print our own documents out.
If you want a hard copy.
If you want a hard copy.
Oh, yeah, so he's talking about for the meetings.
Yeah, if you want
Or do
to.
we have access to this technology here? It'd be a lot easier if we had access to be able to retrieve it from here.
We've been talking to IT about that to see if there's a way for you guys to be able to bring it up here.
We're not there yet.
We're not there yet. We've also, if you'll remember, whenever I came on about 2 years ago, we had talked about possibly being able to get iPads for you guys to load everything on there, for you to take a look at it, to have it with you at the meeting. We're still working on that. That's a funding issue. But we'll keep going in that direction and see what we can do. And that's what I'm saying, we'll try this out for a month, two meetings. If this doesn't work out, or we need to if it's working for some people, but we need to make exceptions for other, then we're more than happy to do that, and just let me know so that we can do that.
Thank you. All right, well, I guess that's it, unless anybody's got anything else we need to discuss. I don't think so. All right.
Go Falcons.
We are adjourned.